Hi guys. So if you're a regular to this channel, you know that I generally agree with most things that James O'Brien has to say. And when it comes to Brexit, I agree with almost everything he has to say. Unfortunately, in this video, I have to disagree with him because he's going to lay a huge amount of blame for the loss of the referendum in 2016, the Brexit referendum, at the feet of the Remain campaign. And to a certain extent, that is true. But I think James is missing out on some very important information. So let's hear what he had to say, and I'll come back with a comment.
I felt a little kind of ghost appear on my shoulder while he was talking. You probably won't remember, but in the run-up to the Brexit vote in 2016, I was doing some moonlighting at the BBC, so the scrupulous impartiality that you have to observe there was also in place on this programme. I think probably to my eternal regret, I should have been a lot more on it than I was until after the vote had come through, and everybody who rang me that had supported it turned out to have built their support on either racism or nonsense, or of course very legitimate concerns about mass immigration. Yeah, but we shouldn't have done it like that. We should have done it like Jamie did it there. We should have talked about how wonderful this country is and why it would be such a change and a shame to break stuff.
So the idea of we shouldn't break stuff. Look how good the country is because of EU membership. And there's no problem with that argument. But the issue that you're forgetting is that the media, for decades, not just years, but for decades before that referendum, were pouring poison into the ears of the British public on a continuous basis. If there's a problem, it's because of the EU. If you can't get a seat on a bus, it's because of the EU. If you can't get a medical appointment, it's because of the EU. The media had been pouring this type of poison into the ears of the public for decades. Not just print media, but also new media, and also, of course, the likes of the BBC, where they would invite on Nigel Farage to promote Brexit, and he would go unchallenged. Many times there would be no one on the other side to challenge what Nigel Farage was saying. Now, Nigel Farage, of course, was a member of the European Parliament, but he never held office in the UK, and he was continually being used as some sort of expert when it came to Brexit. Yes, the Remain campaign failed, but the media has to take the blame as well. The media, as I said, were pouring poison into the ears of people for decades. Any problem you had, it was the EU's fault. Now, another problem that James probably doesn't understand, and I think is very, very important to remember, is the role of austerity in the run-up to the referendum. In 2007, 2008, we had the financial crisis. Many people were laid off. Many people suffered great financial stress. And what happened because of that? You had many people experiencing poverty. The NHS suffered. And of course, if the media were telling you that the reason you're suffering financially is because of the EU, the reason the NHS is on its knees is because we as a government are sending money from, taking money from the NHS and sending it to the European Union. Of course, that's going to develop resentment towards the European Union. So you have to remember the role of the role of the media in all of this. The media poisoned people's minds, convinced them that their enemy was not the rich, their enemy was not the government, their enemy was the EU.
You know?
And sorry, just one more thing. For austerity affected the most, the biggest impact austerity had in society was on the working class, not the middle class. James O'Brien is middle class. Many people who are middle class did not suffer to the same extent. Many people did, of course, suffer in the middle class, but not to the same extent as the working class did. So it's easier to say, well, look how good things are when you're middle class. When you're working class, that argument doesn't work. It doesn't wash. And anyone actually presenting this argument to you, saying, look how good things are, will just, of course, develop this resentment, not just towards the middle class, not just towards Remainers, but also to the EU as well.
I think that would have worked. Oddly, looking back, I feel probably more negativity towards the people in charge of running the Remain campaign than I do towards the people in charge of running the various Leave campaigns, because I knew what they were, and they know what they are. That's why they get so upset with people who hold up mirrors.
Why did the media allow this to happen, though? Why did the media allow the Leave people to go unchallenged? Like, it's much easier to say, look, you're suffering, things are going to get better if you vote in this way. It can be comparable to what happened in the United States. In the United States, Donald Trump was saying, let's make America great again. Okay, you're suffering, I'm going to make it great again for you. Of course, it was a big pack of lies. But what was Hillary Clinton's response to that? America is already great. It was already great for people like her. It was already great for people who had money, the middle class perhaps, but not for the working class, not for the poor. That's why Donald Trump was able to reach out to those people, because they were suffering, and he said, I'm listening to you. Hillary Clinton is completely disconnected. And I think probably the biggest problem with the Remain campaign was that it was full of people who were disconnected from the working class, who didn't understand poverty, who didn't understand what it was like to suffer economic hardship.
But the Remain campaign was run by complete idiots. Or at least that's not fair. It was run in such an idiotic way. Project Fear worked, didn't it, as rhetoric, even though it was mostly bogus, because it did sound as if everything was doom and gloom. So instead of saying, oh, it's going to be awful, we should have said, this is a really cool place to live. This is a great country. I mean, not only is that why so many other people are keen to come and work here, but it's also why it would be very, very foolish to break any of the foundation stones upon which our current economic and social and indeed cultural success is built. Oh, man. It's true. That's why I said to you earlier that when he described himself as, whatchamathing, the upbeat, optimistic, he is. I mean, he's one of the bounciest people I know in a good way. But he framing it as something valuable that we might lose, which is a completely different emotional offering from something wicked this way comes.
See, the problem with all of this is that you have to ignore the fact that at the time there was this austerity. People were suffering. You had Remain politicians completely disconnected from reality, the reality of the working class and the poor. And when people are suffering and the government are telling them, you should do this, the response from many people is to give the government a bloody nose. And a bloody nose in politics is the idea that the government, the government of the day are punished by the electorate because of the current situation. Once again, I agree with James on most things, and I agree that the Remain campaign were incompetent. What should have happened was, and I said this on numerous occasions, what should have happened was the government set up an independent committee that would provide information to the public about the benefits and the costs of EU membership. So this is what the EU give to us. This is what we give to the EU. This is the benefit. This would be a potential benefit of leaving the European Union. This is a potential cost of leaving the European Union. Give people clear, independent, transparent information and then allow them to make a choice on the matter. But that's not how it worked. You had politicians getting involved, you had misinformation, and of course you had the media manipulating the public. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?